Come in. Good evening, Adler.
Good evening, Commander.
What do you have for me today?
I have a detailed report on the recent mining expedition. We managed to uncover something very, interesting. The team says they were feeling signs of bioresonant manipulation when in its vicinity. We had one of the Calibris probe it, but as soon as she did, she vomited and proceeded to faint. She's reported an intense migraine since then.
Take me there.
I wouldn't recommend visiting the artifact before we fully understand it. You could get seriously injured.
Take me there now, Adler.
Of course, Commander. Please, follow me.
I'll be the first to admit, I'm afraid of the dark. Well, I'm not really scared of the absence of light, more so what lurks beyond my vision, what lingers just out of sight, something that perhaps I can't understand. When you were a kid, did you ever get up in the middle of the night to get a drink of water, only to leave the sanctuary of your bedroom for the long, dark hallway that seems to be both so empty yet so full at the same time? Standing at the end of the hallway, paralyzed by fear, letting your thoughts run wild at what could be watching you, waiting for you to make your next move? Maddening yourself the more you think about the unexplainable horror that awaits in the ceaseless void? To a degree, as I grew older, these thoughts never really left me. The only thing that changed was that I understood more and more about how the world worked, and that those thoughts of a demon at the end of the hallway were impractical and foolish, and that's how it's always been. But what if they weren't? What if one day things changed, things weren't the way they always were? Everything starts to be different. It's gradual at first, but over enough time you notice a distinct change. Maybe it even gets to a point where those foolish prospects of a nightmare at the end of the hallway aren't so unbelievable. A slow changing of reality itself that rewrites the fundamentals of what you knew. You remember the rules being different, but clear evidence suggests otherwise. What I'm trying to ask you is, have you ever heard of Signalis? Signalis is a Lovecraftian survival horror game in which you play as a hot robot lady going through unimaginable lengths to find your equally hot wife to fulfill a promise. You accomplish this by touring a multitude of areas, each in a different state of decay and decomposition, fighting your way deeper into a hell of someone else's design in desperate attempts to set things right. This game fascinates me, and I'm not exactly sure if it's because it tells an impressive and well thought out story while leaving many aspects up to interpretation, or if it's because most of the characters are 7-foot-tall robot women. The Lovecraftian genre is shrouded in mystery by nature, and Signalis is no exception. There's no real conclusion, there's no riding off into the sunset, and there's certainly no happily ever afters. The game gives you what you need to know to grasp your story, but you won't know why it's happening, at least not at first. During my first playthrough, I thought that for certain all my questions would be answered on game completion. Sure, it answered a few, but it generated twice as many. Signalis' lore isn't exactly nice to casual players, and considering I can count my IQ on my fingers, it took me hours of replaying the game, scouring the wiki, and even watching other people who actually understood the game to tell me what was going on. Though, before we get into all that, allow me to quickly explain the game's mechanics. Put up the timer. The primary way this game gets you from point A to B is what I like to call the I need shit everywhere all the time mechanic, also known as in-seat. Many games use in-seat, namely the Resident Evil series, and Signalis follows a similar method in puzzle solving. Let's take a puzzle near the end of the game, for example. I need to get this card out of the painting. Well, apparently I can't just do that with my hands, so let's just see our other options. 20 minutes go by of progressing through the area, gaining items that aren't what I need for this puzzle, but hey, looky here, a bottle of acetone, perfect for dissolving paints. We take that back upstairs, and there you go, one of 6 key items for the overall area puzzle. The in-seat method poses a problem though. If I need shit everywhere all the time, where can I keep that? Well, in our inventory of course, so let's look at that. Our inventory has 3 screens to it, our items, modules, and a map. Our modules hold a visual of our health status, a memory repository for all the notes you've picked up during your journey, and a radio used to solve a significant amount of puzzles. Our item screen holds our items, of course. By default, only 6 unique items can be held at once. The only exception to this is ammunition and health packs. There are game options to tweak this by either making useful tools like a flashlight not take up a slot, or downright removing the carry capacity. I didn't have these options when I played this game multiple times. Finally, we have our map. It's nothing too special, but it does mark objectives you've encountered and doors you've gone up to help you keep track of where you've been and what you've done. See? Told you it'd be quick. The gameplay really isn't that complex and boils down to just grabbing as many items as you can hold and then taking them to where they need to go while shooting women along the way. It also helps to get hit as many times as possible when in the door exit animation, as there's nothing you can do about it. My record is 4 in a playthrough, by the way. This leads me into my next topic, actually. Let's talk about the friends and foes that populate Signalis and what they do. The world of Signalis can be divided into 2 categories: replicas and gestalts. A gestalt is labeled as anyone who is not a replica, aka humans. As implied by the name, replicas are mass-produced copies of specific gestalt brain patterns. When a certain gestalt individual is deemed a worthy enough candidate, their mind is copied and stored in a central neural database. Once copied, the neural pattern is augmented and suppressed so that the resulting replicas are focused on their work and deployment duties rather than being distracted by their previous memories and turmoil. What happens to the gestalts after the imprinting process, however, is unknown. As you primarily see replicas on your journey, I'd like to list all the different types and their functions. Starting with the backbone of society, we have the Yule. Yules are multi-purpose worker units suited for all kinds of domestic tasks, such as cleaning, cooking, and simple medical and office work. Being very social units, they tend to form large groups and give each other themed nicknames. Considered to be the worker bee of the construction and repair industry, Aura units are strong and heavy workers perfectly fit for the production of industrial goods. Being the most produced replica type to date, Auras have replaced all Gestalt workers in many dangerous fields of work. The less common Elster unit is a versatile combat engineer primarily designed for orbital service. They work well under pressure and are known for their adaptability and reliability under long-term isolation conditions, i.e. planetary scout ships shot outside the solar system. The common security technicians, Star units, are trained in close combat and riot control techniques. Despite being heavily armored, they are able to move swiftly with their long stride. Typically, Stars will be in small squads led by one Star officer equipped with a ballistic shield. Each cadre of Star units are overseen by a controller unit, most commonly a Storch. Due to their towering figures, Storches literally and figuratively keep a bird's eye view on any situation, ready to direct their cadre as needed. Storches are also described as cruel and violent, with a short temper.
Dickhead.
Right back at you, bitch. Coming in at the tallest replica model, we have the Minas. Designed to work with heavy machinery in hazardous environments, Minas are fully armored and sealed with high security power armored bodies. Despite their hulking forms, they are not suited for combat and can often be described as motherly. A force to be reckoned with and an authority to never be questioned, Falk units serve not only as commanders, but as a nearly godlike being, a perception underlined by her tall build and powerful prototype Bioresonance module. This prototype not only allows her to bend and fathom the minds of weaker individuals, but also manipulate objects from a distance. We'll talk about exactly what Bioresonance entails a little later. A marvel of modern technology and the most capable bioresonant unit ever produced. Despite their small stature, Calibris are not to be taken lightly. Described as one of the most efficient protector units, they are able to directly influence the minds of replicas and gestalts alike to extract information and non-verbally communicate amongst themselves instantly. They are the closest recreation of a true hive mind. Adler units are in charge of managing and overseeing all administrative tasks for an entire facility. Designed to be a direct counterpart to a Falk unit, serving as her adjutant by taking care of necessary paperwork and calculations. Adlers also heavily rely on Falk units emotionally, making them easily susceptible to their influence.
What?
It's referenced there are other replica models created for other purposes, but we never encounter them and information regarding their specifications is never discovered. I also mentioned that we would be discovering the friends and foes of this world, so where are the enemies? well, you're looking at them. I suppose I should talk about that whole Lovecraftian aspect of the game now. If you're familiar with the Lovecraftian genre, you'll know that it often has tropes of madness and a changing of one's reality, whether it be genuinely altered or just perceived as such. I believe Signalis to be a bit of both. It is through one's perceived reality that general reality is changed. Just a minute ago, I mentioned something called Bioresonance and how some Replika units have access to this ability. Bioresonance is a barely understood universal phenomenon that exists everywhere all the time. Think of it as a vibration that everything resonates with, yet is also shaped by everything and everyone. Very rarely, a Gestalt can be born with the ability to somewhat control this power. They're born with varying levels of control over this phenomenon, but even more rare are the ones who can fully shape and conduct this cosmic orchestra. It's hard to define exactly what bioresonance fully encompasses, but we know for a fact it's capable of reading, amplifying, and projecting emotions, telepathy, telekinesis, projection of physical manifestations of the users, and, in extreme cases, alter the fundamental laws of reality, among other things. So, with this knowledge, how does bioresonance work itself into our journey and classify it as Lovecraftian? It's more prevalent later into the game as things become more non-Euclidean and esoteric, but it's actually present within the game since the moment we start. Even in our first glimpse of the world, things aren't natural. I mean, you expect me to believe that rocks just form like that? Even if you somehow overlook that, all the enemies you encounter just aren't right. We're led to believe some sort of sickness plagued the areas we explore, and in a sense, one has, but it's a little more complicated than that. Like I said, a bioresonance user can alter reality, so clearly none of this is natural. Someone must be changing it, right? Why? Why are we here? Why did we wake up on a malfunctioned starship? Why do we press forward? Why is everything wrong? And who is she? To answer these, we need to back up a bit. So, let's start from the beginning. You are an Elster unit, a bioengineered miracle of polyethylene, titanium, and flesh, a replica, as they're called. You're created to be a versatile combat engineer primarily designed for orbital service, but your extensive technical knowledge and combat capabilities make you a true survivalist. Being a replica, there are many like you, all identical in looks, brain patterns, and skills. But you are different. Not in any conventional way, of course. Like all replicas, you were woken up one day with an objective and purpose. Instead of waking up in a factory, though, you woke up in a derelict starship dubbed the Penrose 512 in the middle of nowhere. The only thing on board worth mentioning is a decayed photo of a woman named Ariane Young. The ship's computer tells you that Ariane was once part of your two-man crew, though is nowhere to be seen. Out of options, you leave the ship and embark into the frozen wastes. You stumble through a stone gate and take shelter from the blizzard in a perfectly circular hole. Within the hole lies a room. You're not sure why, but this room is familiar. You've never set foot in it yourself, but you feel like you've been here many times prior. On the desk lies a peculiar book. It has a strong pull to it, urging you to pick it up. You oblige.
Do you remember our promise? Wake up.
An unbearable amount of information is shown to you in an instant. Although only a few seconds have passed, it feels like days have gone by. You know who you are, and you know what must be done. You are Elster 512. One day you were woken up and assigned to a starship dubbed the Penrose 512. Your mission is to find hospitable planets fit for human colonization outside of the solar system. You will be accompanied by your pilot and general officer, Ariane Young. She seems nice enough and seems eager to work with you. Days go by, and you both acquaint yourselves with each other and settle into your new long-term home. The ship is roomy enough for the both of you and has everything you two need to live for a long time, so there's not much to complain about. Months go by. The two of you know each other quite well now, and despite the solitude, you thrive, performing all maintenance as required and even spending downtime with Ariane, getting to know her better. Years go by. You and Ariane have been in a serious relationship for some time now.
Esther! You're up!
Ariane says that she never thought she'd find love after she left her home on the icy moon of Rotfront. Her backstory is troubling. She only wanted to get away from the oppression of the world, always seen as an outsider, barely any friends, and bullied constantly at school. Well, she got her solitude at least. You've gotten another transmission from HQ saying you'll be passing the Oort cloud very soon. Hopefully you'll find what you're looking for. Half a decade goes by. You and Ariane celebrate your 3,000 cycle anniversary. She's been feeling some effects of aging and has expressed feelings of being a bit stir-crazy, but overall, you're proud of her for being so optimistic all the time. You're expecting another transmission from HQ any time now.
Achtung! 0, 3, 2, 4, 6, Trennung 1, 6, 3, 8, 1, 4, 6, Trennung.
It's hard to remember how long has gone by. The transmission was a farewell letter. You nor Ariane are going home. The ship's reactor started failing months ago, leaking out radioactive coolant. You tried fixing it with what materials you had left aboard, but there's only so much you can do. After a while, both of you feel the effects of radiation sickness and cancer in its fullest. After a point, it gets to be too much for Ariane. Luckily, the ship has a cryopod to hold any Gestalt in stasis until their injuries can be properly treated. You both agree that it'd be best for Ariane to go into stasis until you can find a suitable landing spot or manage to repair the reactor. Before you seal Ariane in stasis, she wants you to make a promise with her. You would do anything for her, so you agree. Unfortunately for you, though, Replika blood is primarily oxidants, which are great for delivering oxygen throughout your system, but also worsens the effect of cancer on your biological components. You die not much later. Time is irrelevant now. With a failing power grid and worsening coolant leaks, Ariane is stuck in a lucid dreamlike state. Her body is dying slower than normal due to being somewhat in stasis, though her mind is as active as ever. After years and years of waiting for you to fulfill the promise, she gets desperate. Ariane failed to mention to you that she's bioresonant capable, partly because you two had other things to worry about, but mostly because she didn't know herself. After enough time alone with her thoughts, Ariane learns of her extensive power. She tries many things to no avail. So, in a last-ditch attempt, she forces her power as hard as she can, ripping open a tear in the fabrics of reality. The Penrose comes to a final resting point in an eternal realm of Ariane's creation. Meanwhile, through the Penrose's broadcast system, Ariane broadcasts a string of memories, emotions, and directives to whatever will listen. Time is relevant once more. Sierpinski 23, a mining and re-education facility located on the outer planet Leng, is operating at peak efficiency like any other day. The administrator of the facility hands the mining operation reports to the commander, which states that some unusual artifact has been uncovered. She wishes to see it for herself. Upon reaching the artifact, she is urged closer. Being a Falk unit, she's familiar with bioresonance and knows that something beyond is using it, something powerful. The administrator advises against proceeding, but she goes through anyway. The commander is bombarded with memories that aren't hers, convincing her that she's someone she isn't. She returns and falls into a coma. Over the next few weeks, Sierpinski is thrown into turmoil and chaos. Whatever the commander brought back with her is slowly corrupting the entire facility. You are an Elster unit. You were called to Sierpinski by a familiar voice from across the system. You're not sure what yet, but you have something important to do here. You can feel the voice being amplified by the commander, still laying in her coma, though you quickly realize she's only a relay. You eventually meet the administrator of the facility, Adler.
A visitor. Welcome to our facility. You've caught us at an unfortunate time. How can I help you?
I'm looking for a gestalt.
Let me see that picture. Alana So. I believe she's one of our factory workers. However... you shouldn't have returned.
You come to on a pile of what seems to be your own corpse. Unlucky Elster units that failed in their pursuit of the call. Delving deeper into the layers of Sierpinski, you find your way into the mines, closer to the source. You end up in a space between. The reality here is formed by two clashing dreams. Some of it is familiar in an unfamiliar sense, while some of it is completely foreign. You manage to open a large door that was concealing the voice behind it. Adler tries to stop you, warning you of the consequences of proceeding. You ignore him. The voice is loud now.
Come closer.
You move with a sense of agency, passing more unsuccessful Elster units. You come across the Penrose. Your goal is so close now. Weak but driven by an exterior force, you climb up to the access hatch and try to pry it open. You pull too hard, fatally wounding yourself. You lie in the red sand as life fades from your eyes. You remember a simpler time, one you didn't personally experience, but it might as well have been you at this point. You're performing routine maintenance on the Penrose before you go to check in with Ariane. It's your 3000 cycle anniversary. You and her share a dance before falling asleep together. You both receive the signal you were waiting for from HQ.
Do you remember our promise?
Imbued with new vigor, you crawl up to the Penrose, once again in the frozen wastes, and find an entrance. You limp into the cryogenics room. Lying next to the infested cryopod is a previous Elster unit, clad in bullet-resistant armor. Seeing as she won't be needing them anymore, you steal her spare parts. You jump down a fleshy hole, and a memory of a beach fills your mind. You wake up in Sierpinski once more, though something has changed. You make your way back to the same hole in the desecrated classroom that initially led you into the lower levels of the facility, though this time you're elsewhere. Welcome to Rot Front. The voice calls from here as well, more directly this time. As you progress, the area decays further and further. It won't be stable here for much longer. You're running out of time. After much thinking, you manage to open up a hole in the wall. On the other side is the same room from before, only this time you're comfortable here. You pick up the same book that started this journey and leave the room. You're in Ariane's home on Rot Front. Now only one final obstacle must be hurdled before you can fulfill your promise. Commander Falk blocks your path forward. Like you, she's been tainted with the memories of someone else, though unlike you, they were not meant for her.
Why did you return? There's nothing for you here. She'll never dance with us again. No matter what we do. She doesn't even want us anymore. This god won't forgive you. Both of us. We are incomplete. Let us become whole again.
She's gone insane. An unfortunate loss caught in the crossfire. Time to put her down. Somehow, you managed to take her down through conventional means.
I've been waiting for this for a long time. Now, we are one.
You come across the gate once more. Yet again, Adler blocks your path, but this time he's serious.
If you go back, it'll all fall apart. I can't let that happen. You selfish monster.
You ignore him and attempt to push on. You press on as he lays there, bleeding out.
You'll destroy everything.
Fatally wounded, you once again make your way across the red desert. She's here this time.
I've been waiting for you. For us.
You climb all the way on top of the Penrose once again. Half of the hatch is open from your previous attempt. You manage your way inside and make your way to the cryogenics room.
I've come back for you. It's me, Elster.
Elster? I'm sorry, but I don't remember.
It's okay. Please, just let me stay by your side a little longer.
The life fades from your eyes as you die by her side. Another failure to fulfill the promise. Although, maybe things don't have to end this way. Maybe another Elster unit will succeed where you failed in due time. Maybe this isn't the end of the story, but you'll just have to find that out for yourself in the next cycle. In the meantime, though, if anyone ever asks if you've ever heard of Signalis, now you can tell them you have. Thanks for watching.